The morning Daniel Carter walked out on his wife and their critically ill daughter, he had no idea Sarah had just won a $50 billion government contract, the biggest in the nation's history. But Daniel was too busy texting his mistress to notice the email that landed at 6:47 a.m., confirming her company's victory. Sarah Carter, a brilliant civil engineer who spent 15 years building her firm from their garage while he climbed corporate ladders using her name, stood in the kitchen clutching Emma's medical bills in one hand and divorce papers in the other. She watched the man she'd sacrificed everything for load designer luggage into the car she'd helped him buy. That same afternoon, Daniel filed for divorce, signing away his rights to Emma, their frail little girl fighting leukemia, all so he could marry Victoria Chen, the wealthy heiress who promised him status, fortune, and power. But what would happen when he realized what he'd thrown away? How would the man who abandoned his dying child react when the woman he'd called a burden became the most powerful contractor in America? And what would Sarah do when the husband who'd mocked her failures stood before her again, begging the empire he once dismissed to let him in? Sarah's fingers trembled as she signed Emma's final consent form. Her eyes burned from another sleepless night at Children's Memorial Hospital. Her daughter lay pale and fragile in the bed beside her, a 7-year-old fighting a battle no child should endure. The leukemia diagnosis had arrived 18 months ago, the same week her firm was shortlisted for the federal infrastructure project. Since then, Sarah had lived in hospital corridors, working on her laptop between chemotherapy sessions, taking government calls while holding Emma's hand. Daniel had been there at first, or so she'd believed. But his visits grew rare, his excuses longer, his patience thinner every time Emma's treatment interfered with his schedule. Their downsized apartment felt like a cage in the dim morning light. Daniel had convinced her to sell their modest home, claiming they needed to cut costs, that her firm was draining their savings. She'd trusted him, unaware he was already planning a future with Victoria Chen, daughter of Marcus Chen, CEO of Chen Industries. Sarah had met Victoria once, at a networking gala, and she'd seen how Daniel's gaze lingered on her diamonds a little too long. She'd dismissed her gut feeling as exhaustion. Now she sipped bitter instant coffee as dawn crept through the window. The government portal blinked with a new notification, but her mind was too foggy to focus. Emma had cried in pain through most of the night, and Sarah had stayed awake beside her, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Daniel hadn't come home again. His 2 a.m. text was short. Working late, don't wait up. She hadn't waited in weeks. She'd stopped expecting him to ask about Emma's progress, or her project that had cost her 15 years of sleepless nights. The peeling walls and second-hand furniture mocked the life they once had. She remembered when Daniel used to brag about her. "My wife is going to change the infrastructure world." But as the years passed and her success didn't come fast enough, pride turned to bitterness. Every delay, every medical bill became her fault. He'd call her firm a gamble, tell her to be practical, to get a corporate job instead of chasing impossible contracts. When Daniel finally came home that evening, the tension was suffocating. He threw his briefcase onto the couch, loosened his tie like a man trapped, and glanced at Emma's medication chart without reading it. Sarah stirred a pot of soup, all they could afford, feeling his judgment in the air. "This is what we've become," he said, motioning toward the tiny kitchen, the cluttered bills. "This poverty, this struggle. I can't live like this anymore, Sarah." Her knife stilled over the cutting board. "Daniel, the proposal decision is coming any day now. If we get this contract, if. His fist slammed the table, the dishes rattling. "That's all I've heard for years. If the contract comes, if Emma gets better, if we can just hold on." "I'm done holding on to nothing," she turned, voice breaking. "Emma needs us, both of us. The doctors—" "She needs a father who isn't drowning," he snapped, eyes shifting away. "I've been offered something real. Vice President of Development at Chen Industries. Marcus Chen himself wants me." A chill passed through her. "The Chen family? Victoria's father?" He looked away, jaw tense. "Yes, Victoria recommended me. She sees my potential, unlike someone who only sees a paycheck for her failing dream." His words sliced deep. Sarah had used her connections to get him every promotion he'd ever had, sacrificing her own career so he could thrive. And now he was throwing it all away, along with their child. "What are you saying?" she whispered. "I'm saying I want out. I want a divorce. The Chens think I'm single, ambitious, unattached. Marcus is talking about making me family. Staying married to you would ruin everything." Her vision blurred. "Emma is your daughter. She's fighting for her life." "I'll pay child support," he said coldly. "But I can't stay tied to this. Victoria and her family can give me everything I've worked for. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." That night when he left, the silence felt heavier than grief. Sarah sat by the hospital window watching her daughter sleep under the soft hum of machines. For years she'd blamed herself, thinking if she worked harder, he'd come back. But in that moment, she knew the truth. Emma was her world now, and nothing else mattered. The next morning, she finally clicked open the government email that had arrived hours before Daniel walked out. Her breath caught as she read the message. Once, twice, 3 times. Carter Engineering Solutions had been awarded the National Infrastructure Modernization Project, a $50 billion contract spanning a decade, the largest in U.S. history. She had done it. After 15 years of relentless work, of designing groundbreaking, sustainable projects and proving herself in a male-dominated industry, Sarah Carter had finally won. She should have called Daniel instantly, should have celebrated with the man who'd once been her partner in everything. But Daniel was gone. That same morning, his attorney had delivered divorce papers to her hospital table with cruel precision. He wanted nothing. No alimony, no assets, no custody. He was signing away his parental rights to Emma, claiming medical costs were too high and care too demanding. The documents read like an escape plan, crafted to erase his family as if they were a bad investment. Sarah sat in the hospital cafeteria, staring at the contract notification glowing on her tablet beside the divorce decree. 2 opposing worlds colliding, triumph and abandonment. Upstairs, her daughter was hooked to IV lines, and down here she had just become one of the most powerful contractors in the country. Yet she had never felt more alone. She almost called Daniel, tempted to tell him what he had just thrown away. But something inside her, pride perhaps, or the sharp understanding that a man who could walk out on his sick child didn't deserve her success, kept her silent. Instead, she picked up her phone and called her attorney, her accountant, and every loyal employee who'd stood by her during the lean years. Within hours, the news broke. Carter Engineering Solutions had done the impossible. Sarah Carter was being hailed as a visionary. Her phone buzzed with interview requests, partnership offers, and congratulations from those who once doubted her. The governor called personally. So did senators. Her company's value exploded overnight. But Daniel? Silent, unreachable, already basking in his new life with Victoria Chen. Through friends, Sarah heard about their engagement, announced at an elite party the same night he left. He'd proposed to Victoria with a ring worth more than Emma's monthly treatment. The wedding was set for 6 weeks later, a grand affair at the Chen estate. Marcus Chen had kept his word, promoting Daniel to vice president, showering him with the luxury he'd always craved. Sarah buried herself in work. She managed Emma's treatments around government calls, hired top specialists with her signing bonus, and made sure her daughter received the best care possible. They moved into a bright new apartment near the hospital. 2 bedrooms, sunlight, and hope. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Emma was responding. Her color had returned. Her laughter came easier. But peace didn't last long. 3 weeks after the divorce finalized, an envelope arrived. Heavy cardstock, gold lettering. "Victoria Chen and Daniel Carter request your presence." Sarah stared at it for hours, the paper trembling in her hands. It felt like betrayal carved in gold. That evening, her best friend Jennifer found her crying. The invitation crumpled. "Don't go," Jennifer said softly, throwing it into the trash. "He doesn't deserve to see you. He doesn't deserve anything." But Sarah shook her head, her voice steady. "I have to. I need to see what he chose over Emma and me. Maybe then I can finally let go." The morning of the wedding, Jennifer arrived with a navy blue dress. Elegant, modest, perfectly fitted. "If you're going to look stunning," she said, styling Sarah's hair. Sarah looked in the mirror and barely recognized the reflection. Gone was the exhausted woman Daniel had left. In her place stood someone sharper, resilient, powerful, unbreakable. The Chen estate was breathtaking. Sweeping gardens, marble halls, chandeliers glowing like starlight. Guests in couture gowns and tailored suits whispered behind manicured hands the moment she walked in. "Who is she? Why is she here?" Some recognized her from the business pages, their shock barely concealed. Sarah Carter, the infrastructure mogul, at Daniel Carter's wedding? She stood quietly at the back, Jennifer's hand steadying her. Daniel waited at the altar in a tailored tuxedo, every inch the man he always pretended to be. When Victoria appeared in her silk gown, he smiled, that same ambitious gleam Sarah had once mistaken for love. She couldn't bear the vows. The promises sounded hollow coming from a man who'd already broken everyone. At the reception, the murmurs grew. Daniel saw her and froze. His color drained. Victoria, blissfully unaware, laughed beside him. Sarah lifted a glass of champagne, her posture flawless, her expression unreadable. She hadn't come for revenge. She'd come for closure, but Daniel's mother, Patricia, approached, her tone dripping with disdain. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered sharply. "Haven't you humiliated yourself enough? My son has moved on to better things. Don't create a scene." Sarah met her gaze calmly. "I came only to wish Daniel happiness. I'm leaving soon." Before she could step away, Marcus Chen took the microphone, commanding silence. His voice boomed through the glittering hall. "Before we continue, I must address something important." The crowd hushed. Jennifer gripped Sarah's hand. Marcus's tone hardened. "I built my company on honesty, in business, in family, in life. 2 days ago, I received a report about Daniel Carter. I wanted to believe it was false. Unfortunately, my investigators confirmed otherwise." The room fell still. Victoria blinked in confusion. Daniel's hands twitched at his sides. "Daniel Carter presented himself as a single, ambitious man," Marcus continued coldly. "But he failed to mention a 12-year marriage, a 7-year-old daughter battling leukemia, a wife he divorced, abandoning his sick child just weeks ago." Gasps rippled through the guests. Every eye turned toward the back, toward Sarah, standing motionless. Marcus's words kept slicing. "His ex-wife is here tonight." That's Sarah Carter, founder of Carter Engineering Solutions, the woman who just secured a $50 billion federal contract the same day Daniel divorced her. The woman whose connections built his career. The woman who carried their family while he chased fortune. Victoria's face went pale. She turned toward Daniel, horror dawning in her eyes. Marcus didn't stop. "I will not allow a man who hides his failures behind lies to join my family, who abandons duty for greed, who trades loyalty for convenience." He paused, the silence suffocating. "The position is rescinded. This marriage is canceled. Daniel Carter, you are no longer welcome in my home or my company." The hall erupted in stunned whispers as Daniel stood frozen, stripped of everything, wealth, status, and the illusion of success. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Victoria sobbed, her mother rushing to hold her as she stared at Daniel in disbelief. Guests whispered furiously, the judgment that once targeted the uninvited ex-wife now turning on the disgraced groom. Daniel stood frozen at the altar, the perfect image of success shattered in an instant, his world collapsing, his face twisted with humiliation and rage. Sarah didn't move. The truth had spoken for her, and though vindicated, she felt no joy in watching Daniel crumble. Jennifer squeezed her hand just as Victoria broke free from her mother's arms and walked towards Sarah, mascara streaking down her face. "I'm so sorry," Victoria whispered. "He told me you were toxic, that you trapped him, that you'd taken everything from him. I believed him. I'm so sorry about your daughter." "How could he leave her?" Sarah's voice was calm, unshaken. "Money can't fix a dishonest heart. I hope you find someone worthy of you." Then Marcus Chen approached, his expression heavy with regret. "Mrs. Carter, I apologize for the pain my family caused. Your strength and integrity are extraordinary. If there's anything I can do, there's nothing needed, Sarah interrupted gently. I came for closure and I found it. I'm going home to my daughter now. As she turned to leave, the crowd parted. The same people who had whispered behind her back now stepped aside in silent respect. Jennifer walked beside her, and to everyone's surprise, Victoria followed them to the door. Can I visit? Victoria asked softly. Can I help with your daughter's treatment, or your company anything? Sarah studied her for a long moment and saw genuine remorse. When the dust settles, if you truly mean that, come to the children's hospital. Emma loves visitors who bring books. In the weeks after the ruined wedding, Sarah's story spread everywhere. She became a symbol, the woman cast aside for poverty who rose as a billionaire contractor. The mother who'd fought for her child while her husband chased luxury. The engineer who'd built an empire while the man who doubted her lost everything. Interview requests flooded in, but Sarah declined them all. Her attention was on Emma, whose treatments were finally working, and on her company, now expanding faster than she'd ever dreamed. 3 weeks later, Victoria Chen appeared at the hospital, her arms full of storybooks, her flawless image replaced by humility. She sat with Sarah as Emma slept, and something unexpected formed, not friendship yet, but understanding. Victoria had been deceived too, her love built on Daniel's lies. She wanted to make amends. Marcus Chen soon followed his daughter's lead, meeting with Sarah to propose a business partnership. His company specialized in manufacturing, hers in design and engineering. Together, they could reshape the infrastructure industry. Sarah listened carefully, remembering how Daniel once called the Chens his ticket to success, not realizing that real success came from competence and integrity, not manipulation. I'll consider it, Sarah said, but not as charity. If we partner, it's because our companies fit, not because of pity. I've earned everything I have, and I won't compromise that now. Marcus smiled. I wouldn't expect anything less. That's exactly why I want this partnership. Their collaboration grew naturally, founded on professionalism rather than scandal. Victoria became a steady part of Sarah's life, visiting Emma weekly, bringing laughter, and using her connections to raise awareness for pediatric cancer research. Her consistency won Sarah's trust. Meanwhile, Daniel tried to reach out. His first messages were angry, blaming Sarah for his downfall. When she didn't reply, they turned desperate, then pitiful. He showed up once at her office, but security escorted him out. 6 months after the wedding that never was, he sent one final message asking to meet at Riverside Park, the place where he'd proposed 13 years earlier. Sarah almost ignored it. Emma was in remission now, her hair growing back, her laughter filling their home again. The Carter-Chen partnership was thriving, creating jobs and changing skylines. Her life had moved on. But something in his tone, the exhaustion, the regret, made her agree to meet him one last time. He looked nothing like the man she'd married. His suit was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, his confidence gone. Only defeat remained, Sarah, he began, his voice cracking. I'm so sorry for everything. For Emma, for leaving, for being so blind and selfish. I threw away everything that mattered for things that meant nothing. Can you ever forgive me? She sat down beside him, leaving space between them. I forgive you, Daniel. Not for you, for me. Anger only poisons the one who carries it. But forgiveness isn't reconciliation. You showed me who you are, and I believe you. I've lost everything, he said brokenly. My job, my reputation, Victoria. The Chens blacklisted me. No one will hire me. And Emma, his voice faltered. I abandoned my daughter. What kind of father does that? The kind who valued ambition over love, Sarah said quietly. The kind who saw his family as obstacles, not blessings. You didn't lose everything, Daniel. You traded it. You thought you were getting a better deal. And you learned too late that some things can't be bought or rebuilt. Can I see her? He pleaded. Can I see Emma? I know I don't deserve it, but please. You signed away your rights, Sarah reminded him gently. You chose to stop being her father. She's happy now healing. I won't let your guilt disrupt that. Maybe someday, if she wants to know you, it'll be her choice. But not now. Not like this, he nodded, tears falling freely. And for the first time, Sarah felt pity, not pain. His punishment was living with his choices, and that was enough. "I hope you rebuild your life," she said as she stood. "I hope you learn what real worth means. Not money, not status, but integrity and presence. But you'll have to learn that alone. Goodbye, Daniel." She walked away, lighter than she'd felt in years, leaving him on the same bench where he'd once promised forever. Those promises had long crumbled, but she had kept her own, to Emma, to herself, to the work that now defined her. 6 months later, Carter Engineering Solutions opened its 5th office. Emma, healthy and radiant, rang the ceremonial bell at the New York Stock Exchange as Sarah took the company public. Victoria stood beside them, now a true friend, and Jennifer smiled proudly at their side. The cameras flashed, capturing 3 women who had turned heartbreak into power. Sarah's story became a legend in boardrooms and classrooms alike, a testament to resilience and ethical leadership. But to her, it was never about revenge or reputation. It was about truth. That betrayal couldn't break a woman grounded in self-respect. That real strength came not from wealth, but from integrity. And that sometimes the greatest revenge was building a life so full, so beautiful, the past could never touch it.